Whoever controls the media controls the culture. Welcome to Freedom Alive. We're surrounded by media constantly, and one of our greatest challenges is managing the influence of the mass media of entertainment on our children and grandchildren. Dr. Ted Baehr founded Movieguide to cultivate a better media landscape for his children and future generations. Dr. Baehr joins us to share how God is using him to bring the gospel to Hollywood while teaching people how to be media wise. I'm thankful to again be joined by our co-host, Matt Staver. And Matt, what we watch on the screen can certainly portray Christian and godly values, but many times it exudes an evil agenda. But it's important to not only exercise media discernment and know that we can make a difference in what comes out of Hollywood.
Well, Dr. Ted Baehr, I'm very excited about this interview. I've known Dr. Baehr for many, many years. I knew him when his ministry was located first in Atlanta and when he later moved to the heart of Hollywood. And he has been an incredible influence in what comes out of Hollywood in film production. And he's going to share a lot of information that frankly is startling information. And you wonder why, when you listen to what he's going to share, why all of the Hollywood movie production doesn't do family-friendly, I'm not talking about just Christian type of movies, but at least family-friendly movies that have good moral values, because that really is what resonates with the majority of people. We see these blockbuster movies that make hundreds of millions of dollars, and those are an exception. But the ones that are actually making money and making a difference, and the transformation that's taking place because of it, are these family-friendly, faith-based movies that Dr. Ted Baehr has basically, I think, been the inspiration for many years.
It is an inspiring story. We cannot wait to bring it to you, but our Freedom Alert is next.
Your voice makes a difference. The Department of Education recently withdrew a proposed rule change under Title IX sex discrimination law that would have allowed male athletes to play on women's sports teams. The Biden administration admitted that public outcry and legal challenges made finalizing the rule too difficult. In fact, the Department of Education pulled the changes due to more than 150,000 public comments. These included many advocating for the rule's modification or outright withdrawal. The Department of Education also cited mounting legal litigation against Title IX changes related to gender identity for its decision to reverse course. The radical rewrite of Title IX regulations contradicts everything the law was enacted to do, that is, to protect women and girls. This withdrawal reflects the views of most Americans. Males do not belong in female sports.
Up next, Matt's interview with Dr. Ted Baehr.
I'm very pleased and frankly honored to have a very special guest and a friend, Dr. Ted Baehr. He is the founder and publisher of Movieguide. Welcome to Freedom Alive, Ted.
Well, it's great to be with you, and you're one of my favorite people from a long time ago, Matt. So this is wonderful. It's great to see you. You look good. Happy New Year.
It's good to see you as well. On the other end of the coast in California, I'm here in Florida. You know, let me begin with the beginning of Movieguide, because I remember when you were in Atlanta years and years ago, and you started Movieguide, and you had a vision to go out to California and influence the media out there. And we'll talk about what you have done and what's happening in the media. But a man of vision you are, because I remember when you went out there, you had a Movieguide award. And I thought, how in the world could you have the courage, the tenacity, the desire to be able to invite these movie stars to come and have an award? What if nobody shows up? Because you had a provision that only the recipient could be there. They couldn't send a stand-in. Tell us about the founding of Movieguide, why you founded it, and some of the early days, and bring us up to where we are now.
Well, if I could, I'd show you some pictures because I'm looking at them on my computer. My father and mother were stars in the 30s. My father did 62 movies, and he won the box office award in 1936. I grew up on the far left, and when my mother died when I was 13, I went off the rails. And finally, in my late 20s, a woman who came to Christ through the Billy Graham Crusade in New York, the famous Miracle in the Garden, Madison Square Garden, led me to Christ. I went to seminary, and they owned the rights to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So I was head of the company. They actually, although the Episcopal Radio TV was in Atlanta, which was a surprising place, that church was dying, and it was trying to put divisions in different places. So I came down to help with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Doug Gresham is a friend. He's now passing on. And after that got 37 million viewers, it took 26 years. I said, if it takes another, the average movie in Hollywood, to step back a minute, takes 13 years. If you look at Avatar, if you look at Top Gun, they take almost 30 years. And they cost $200 to $300 million, or the average Hollywood movie last year was $160 million. So it's a big production. It takes a long time. I said, if I'm going to change the industry, when I came to Christ, I was on fire to redeem the industry. I got married to Lily. I have 4 children, 18 grandchildren. How can we change the industry? So that became the Movie Guide, which now has grown to 69 million people, which is a lot. It's a little bit less than it was before the elections. And we do the Movie Guide Awards. And when we started in '85 Movie Guide, there was one movie with presented the gospel. And it wasn't the guy who made it. I talked to him, Horton Foote. He didn't intend to do that. He just grew up in Texas. It was about a girl going to her home trip to Bountiful. She's sitting on a bus. She's reading the Bible. She tells her neighbor. But the other movies, Christians were always the villains. And now, last year, there were 200 Christmas movies.
Wow.
And I'm laughing because I got to review all these. I mean,
Look at all the work you created for yourself and your team.
And then we got all these people who want to come to the gala, like all these producers. The young woman in the sea, Daisy Ridley, she said she wanted to come to the gala. Inside Out 2, the producer came up to me, and we had a small event, and he said, oh, I want to come to the gala. I've been there before, and I'm a Christian, and the other people are Christians. Inside Out 2 is about the joy of the Lord is my strength. So there's a lot of movies with Christian content. There are a lot of bad movies, too, for the benefit of your audience. And those bad movies are the ones who are nominated for the Academy Awards and the Golden Globe and the Critics' Choice Award, because those people are promoting the bad. But the good movies are the ones that make money. I mean, Inside Out 2 is the first animated film to make over $2 billion in 2 months. Wow. So the good movies always do better at the box office. And that helps us because we tell Hollywood, the good movies do better. In fact, I think IMDb Pro just released their top grossing movies, which had the top ratings. Rotten Tomatoes was on by the audience and et cetera. And 4 of the 6 are movies that are Movie Guide nominees, and 5 of the 6 are Movie Guide recommended. And they don't understand it. They don't understand why movies would do well because they've got good family content. But we understand it. You and I do.
And I want to get more into that because that's a surprising information to most people, that these family-friendly movies actually do very well. And then the question is, why are not all the movies coming out of Hollywood like that? We'll talk about that in a moment. But I want to get back to some of your vision to see where it came from and where it is now and the influence that it's having, not just in America, but around the world. When you started Movie Guide, I remember one day I had a conversation with you, and I was telling you every time I fly into Los Angeles, this was in the days of smog. When you would fly into Los Angeles, there would be this heavy smog over the city of Los Angeles. And I would tell you, I remember the conversation very clearly, every time I fly into Los Angeles, I feel this darkness. You countered and said, every time I go there, I see something different. Talk about what you're seeing and why you see something different than what I was seeing back then, because of what's happening in the transformation within Hollywood, and particularly filmmakers.
Well, when God, got me into his kingdom, it was all God. Sola gratia, sola fide, sola scriptura. It was God. And I said, if God can save me, because I was really a terrible guy before that. I grew up on the left. I was a card-carrying member of the National Lawyers Guild. And Matt, the National Lawyers Guild is not a family-friendly organization. It represented the Chicago 7. So I said, if God could save me, we can save anybody. And we see, let's say those 200 Christmas movies. Most of them are produced by people who come to the gala and who've come to Christ. So we see a lot of people that you don't know, producers, writers, directors, who've come to Christ. One man grew up sort of a Muslim. He made Path to 9/11, which had Muslim content but not Christian content. He came to the Movieguide Awards. He came to Christ, and then he did Young Messiah. He's one of my best friends. And it's just a flood of these people. People you know, like Chuck Norris many years ago, came to the gala and came to Christ, and we got him discipled. And Gina and Chuck were sort of dabbling in the New Age because he'd become famous when he was in Korea in the army by studying Eastern religions. And a lot of these people have changed. So we see it as a mission field. My son was a missionary in Papua New Guinea in a tribe of 600 people that lived on stilts that you had to drop supplies in every 2 months from a helicopter. And that's no more dark than Hollywood. And Hollywood has got a lot of bright lights and a lot of people. If you go to movieguide.org, every day it's full of articles about people whose lives are changing. And you look at some of these people, you wonder, wow, look at all those tattoos and everything. They say, well, my wife saved me. My mother prayed for me. I came to the Movie Guide Awards. I got transformed. It's a mission field. It's a great mission field because it's so dark.
So the amazing thing is that you went into this mission field when it was really dark, and you went there because God called you to transform the entertainment industry, which you had inherited from the family, that you had been interested in the entertainment industry. You wanted to transform it. And that's really a challenge to all of us, to go into those places and transform them. But you continue to persist. And it's impossible, literally impossible in this program, to catalog some of the individuals, some of the impact that you've had with Movie Guide since you founded it. So many people have come to the Lord, but what about what's happening within the movie industry? You know, when you first started off, you had maybe 1 or 2 movies that you could possibly invite to the award, and now you have so many. How has that transformation occurred?
Well, it's basically occurred that the tool that we use is one, we have a gigantic audience, which if you had 69 million people at $10 a ticket, that's 690 million people. And that gets us a calling card, almost every studio and studio execs, because they need those people. And even studios that were going woke have closed their DEI divisions and just said, we're not going to do this anymore. Parents should raise their children. Disney just said that. And we know these people, so that's all good news. The other side of the coin is we give this detailed economic analysis of the box office, which is very detailed. We look at 150 criteria. I was head of a department at Berkeley, head of a department at City University in New York. At City University, we got 60 professors together to do the first media literacy course. So we look at things that are very deep, like ontology. Now, you and I know ontology. It's the nature of being. But there are a lot of movies that may have a good comment about Jesus, but they're not ontological realism. They're nominalism. They're name it and claim it. They're not solid. We only choose the movies that are really solid, the ontology, the epistemology. And I can go into all that, and if somebody wants to email me, I'll send them more information. But it shows that the better movies do better at the box office. So we're saying if you want to make money, now, you know, some of my producers of some of the biggest movies, including movies with people like Jen Caviezel, et cetera, say, we make 2 movies out here in Hollywood. We make movies for the general audience, and then we make movies to win awards. So the problem is they're still trying to be members of the club, and we've got to just move the club out of the system. And they make, you asked another question, I'm going to answer it now. Hollywood makes movies like car makers used to do, and they still do to a degree, for different people groups. They make movies like cars. They'll make convertibles for some young guy who wants to pick up a girlfriend. They make station wagons or SUVs for a family, et cetera, you know, all of that. But Hollywood does that. They make movies for the African-American audience. And Tyler Perry, when he came to Christ, started making really good movies, and then he drifted a little, but now he's combined with Devon Franklin. So I think, and Devon is a very good friend, and he's come to the Movie Guide Awards. I think he's going to return to making good movies. But those are movies for the black audience, by and large. Medea is for the black audience, and they're movies for the Spanish-speaking audience. My wife was from Argentina. when her family was very upper middle class. Her father was a doctor. But when she moved to America to avoid Perón, they didn't want to learn. Her mother didn't want to learn English. So they make Spanish-speaking movies, Korean-speaking movies, Chinese movies, movies for kids, movies for this. What we started to tell them is that every week, right now, about 112 million people go to church. Now, that's down from 160 million. And if I read Christian sites, they always say, oh, we're losing people. But only about 15 to 17 million people go to movies. So we're 10 times more people going to church than movies. So we say this is a gigantic audience out there, and you need to reach them. And we've taught them that this is an audience, that this is the way you reach them. And we show them how to do that. And it's been very effective.
So now you mentioned that these faith-based movies, the faith-based movies that you're talking about, those would be basically family-friendly type movies, but also maybe more Christian overt movies. They have a mixture of both, correct?
Well, they do. But the interesting thing is that some of the most faith-based movies with clear Christological stories. Remember, I was head of the organization that did The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is an allegory. But you've got Transformers 1, which is a direct allegory of the gospel. You've got, Wild Robot, which is pro-motherhood and anti-abortion. You've got movies that are very strong in their faith elements, such as Inside Out 2, the biggest grossing, which, the producer, the writer, the director were all Christian, and it's got a very strong Christian message that the joy of the Lord is our strength. And when we start getting into anxiety, joy has to come back and take over Riley's mind so that Riley has joy. It's really about the fruit of the Spirit. Somebody said it's not a psychological movie. No, it's not psychological. It's about the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faith, gentleness, and self-control. So if you look at those really big movies, quite often they're allegories, but you can see it very clearly that they're direct Christian or Christological allegories. Mufasa is another one. It's got a lot of Christian elements to it, and it's doing very well at the box office.
So like these other well-known awards that Hollywood actors, producers, and writers receive every year, you have the same thing. Tell us about your awards, and you give them, your symbol is the teddy bear for Ted Baehr, and it's a great award, but you actually do the same thing with the producers, writers, supporting actors, and so forth.
Well, the interesting thing is that we'll get studio heads. For instance, my friend who grew up Muslim and then came to Christ, he was trying to produce another movie, so I would put him with two of the heads of Amazon and a lot of studio heads. And one man who was head of one of the biggest studios, I asked him, why are you coming to the Movieguide Awards? And he said, because we can't get an Oscar anymore. Oscars are given since 1996, a long time ago. Oscars have been given to the most perverse, ridiculous movies that nobody wants to go to. This year, one of the winners at the Golden Globes was about a Mexican cartel head, a thug, a mob, and he wanted to go trans. Just a terrible movie. And the guy who made it was French. He didn't even want to learn Spanish, and he hates Mexico. The whole movie is bad. But here it is winning a Golden Globe because they want to sink to the lowest common denominator. They're always pushing the envelope to push evil. Satan is clearly directing where they're going, but they don't know that. But the studio heads can't receive those awards. You didn't see the great movies that did well at the box office, Kingdom of Planet of Apes, where the hero's named Noah and he saves his family from a great flood. You didn't see those things at the Critics' Choice Award or at the Golden Globes. You do see them at the Movie Guide. So we see studio heads coming that don't go to the other awards. Now, you may see the stars at the other awards, but the stars are basically window dressing on the set. We do get them coming to Movie Guide, but our main goal at the Movie Guide Gala, and we have a few seats for non-industry people, so I might as well mention that. And I'd love to have you come, Matt. But the main goal is to reach the people who are making the movies, the brains, the people behind it, who are putting the money into it, who are choosing subjects for the movies. You know, the stars can get hired for any movie, but I want my father was a star, but basically you play the role that you're given. You want the person who's made that decision to make that movie.
You have a lot of publications and a lot of resources, and your websites are movieguide.org, and you also have tedbaehr.com, which is Baehr, tedbaehr.com. But you also have a resource called the Media Wise Family. How does a family become media wise? What are the things that they look for? What are the resources that you provide?
Well, that's the most important aspect. I mean, the most powerful person in Hollywood is not Iger or any of these studio heads. The most powerful person is the 12 to 24-year-old who goes to movies. And so we try to teach families how to teach their kids to be media wise. As I told you, at one point, we had 60 professors come together and do the first media literacy course, and we baptized that. And let me try to give you an illustration, because I can give you a lot of facts and figures. 2 years ago, my wife died, but one of the doctors, she had over 30 doctors. One of the doctors that I dealt with every month, I called them. They were a little nervous. I said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "My daughter is cutting." And I said, "Well, send her the book. How, is she tall? Is she pretty? Is she thin?" I figured out what her age group is. Have her read this chapter on her age group. So I said, don't talk to her about it. Let her read it and make the decision, because I teach cognitive development theory and media literacy. So the daughter read the book, that chapter, came to Christ, went back to her public school, and started teaching her friends and getting her friends out of cutting and out of miscreant behavior. So my goal is to help people do that. I actually, we have several books on media literacy and several books on how to produce great movies, and we've had a lot of our people who've taken the class on great movies who are doing very well. And you're very, very kind to me and had me speak a couple of times. But, you know, that example, we have a lot of examples of young children who've gotten out of the bad lifestyle because of the Media Wise Family book. And we've also had examples of a lot of people who've taken the How to Succeed class and then become very successful. A movie 3 years ago that was the best movie on Netflix for 9 weeks. My staff told me I had to see it. The producer had taken my class, the only producer, a couple of years before that. He was then asked to be head of a studio, of a major division of a studio. This year at the Golden Globes, one of the winners was a woman who had taken my class a couple of years ago. So we're trying to influence Hollywood, and two, we're trying to help the most important person, the children, the ones who go to movies, make wise decisions and decide they want to see the good and not the bad.
I know whenever we make a decision about a movie, we always go to Movieguide and find out what your review is on it, and you do a very thorough job of reviewing all these movies. And I'm glad that you're having more work to do, because that means that you're being successful and a lot more faith, family-friendly movies are out there. What's amazing is the incredible array of resources that Dr. Ted Baehr and his team at Movieguide have prepared for us, not just in what we watch, but even those who might be interested in going into the filmmaking industry. There's lots of different books that he has written, and this is just a sample, reel-to-reel, 45 movie devotions for families, The Culture-Wise Family, Narnia Beckons, Frodo and Harry, Understanding Visual Media and Its Impact on Our Lives, The Media Wise Family, we already talked about that, The Christian Family Guide to Movies and Video, Volume 1 and 2. Movieguide also has script writing contest and script writing courses. If you want to be a script writer, or you are a script writer, you can participate in their courses and in their training. And every year they give an award to the best script. And your script, when you submit it to Movieguide, it may become part of the next family-friendly blockbuster movie. It's an amazing series of resources. This is their website. Lots of resources available on movieguide.org. You can see various videos as you scroll down through the website. These are different movies that are available, that are produced, and you can go to any one of those and find out specific information about that particular content. They'll go through violence, they'll go through what kind of worldview these movies have. That is part of being a media-wise family. And I think it's important because entertainment is so critically influential that, in fact, as a family, you need to be media-wise. So bring your family together, educate them, talk about the content of the movies, and the way to be able to know what's on these movies is to go to movieguide.org. Ted Baehr is a great friend, so thank you, Ted, for joining us, and thank you for your incredible ministry through Movieguide.
Matt, Ted Baehr, a fascinating example that God is on the move, even in Hollywood.
And a fascinating example of someone who had a vision before you could actually see God on the move in Hollywood, when Hollywood was really dark and dismal. And he had a vision because of his background in entertainment to go into that world and transform it.
Mm-hmm.
And the conversation that I had with him one time, and I mentioned it in the interview, is how did you have the guts, if you will, to hold your very first award presentation? Because it's one thing to hold an award presentation and to give out an award where they send somebody to accept it. Mm-hmm. But his criteria is if you get an award, you have to be there personally to accept it. How did he do that very first one? Think about that. Stepping out in faith. He's going to do this. He's going to put a lot of effort into it. Very costly. He's going to have an award. He's going to nominate this one person. They're going to be getting an award for Best Actor, Best Actress, Supporting Actress, Best Producer, Best Writer. But they have to be there. And you have all these people show up. What if nobody shows up? Mm-hmm. But he had the vision and the faith to take that step. And amazing the transformation that Movieguide has done in the entertainment industry over the years.
It's also another example of a person that as a young person had lost his way, right? And it wasn't until his late 20s that God mobilizes his people everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
And he's an incredible expert in the area of entertainment and movie production. Obviously, you could see that with the interview. But he's also a very godly man who loves the Lord Jesus and is very willing and interested and willing in every context to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that transformation has been evident in some of these big names. I mean, he could rattle off name after name after name of persons that are high up in the movie-making industry that have accepted the Lord Jesus Christ in part through his ministry.
It's our delight to bring you stories like this, resources like this, examples of God moving, like Ted Baehr, in such an unlikely place in Hollywood, and the impact, and how we as families can be educated and help our kids and our families, our grandkids, make wise decisions in the all-important area of entertainment. It's so pervasive in our culture today. Well, in closing, remember Ephesians 5, verse 15, which says, "Be very careful, then, how you live, not as unwise, but as wise." Our freedom is a gift from our Creator. We must never forget that and always protect it. So join us here next time. You'll hear victories as well as ways you can stand up for your priceless freedom. Join us again for Freedom Alive.